Hello and welcome to Arise News. It is Wednesday, the 15th day of February 2017. I'm Jeff Koinange in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. This is Arise News Now. And here are some of the stories making headlines around the world. We have an exclusive interview with Nigeria's Environment Minister Amina Mohammed, who's about to become the Deputy United Nations Secretary General. We'll get her insights on efforts to help clean up, among other things, the volatile Niger Delta. An autopsy is scheduled later today in the death of the half-brother of North Korean strongman Kim Jong-un. And the fallout from former U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's resignation continues. We have the latest. We begin in Nigeria, and recent efforts by acting President Yemi Osinbajo to reach out to groups in the Niger Delta have led to a flurry of activities. With some success, the oil multinational Shell has already pledged $1 billion over the next 5 years to help rehabilitate the devastated area, which has been neglected for decades. And it's not just the Niger Delta that needs urgent attention. Nigeria's northern corridor is constantly facing environmental challenges, affecting everything from food security to living standards. And of course, there's the never-ending debate about energy in Nigeria, in particular renewable energy. There's never enough of it. What more can be done to help power up Nigeria? Well, joining me now is Nigeria's Environment Minister Amina Mohammed. Make that outgoing Environment Minister, because she's about to become the Deputy UN Secretary General, appointed last December by UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Now, she has a wealth of experience in the environmental arena and has been at the forefront of Millennium Development Goals and Sustainable Development Goals for the past decade and a half. She's also very active on social media. So if you want to tweet her, use her handle at Amina J. Mohammed. You can tweet me too if you want, at Koinange Jeff. Madam Minister, good to see you.
Good morning, Jeff.
Congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much.
We'll get to that in a moment. But first, there's been a flurry of activity, as I mentioned at the top, especially in the Niger Delta. Is this something that's been ongoing for a while, or is this something that that's just suddenly been accelerated?
No, it's been going on for a while. I think the struggle, first of all, to get to where we needed to get to has taken many decades. Over the last administration, they tried to put something in place. It didn't work, and so we didn't have much happen then. The president made a political commitment as we came into power, and that's what we tried to execute. But we did it in a way that it has taken time because we need governance structures in place that will allow the sustainability of a project and program over 5 to 30 years. So 5 years for remediation and another 25 years to restore. Now that's all sort of conditional that it doesn't get worse. What we have is based on the UNEP report, and that's what we intend to execute with the commitment of Shell JV, which includes others, AGIP and Co. of $1 billion.
You're relying on peace in that area. Is that possible, Madam Minister? Is that possible? Because every few years it flares up. It's guaranteed to flare up.
Yeah, it's a big area, and I think there are many issues that have not been addressed holistically over time. What we have with the cleanup in Ogoniland is to start that and to really show that as an oasis, a standard bearer for what should happen in cleanup. Now, it's not that cleanups haven't been happening. The regulatory agency, NOSDRA, together with the Ministry of Petroleum, do that on a regular basis with oil companies. However, there have been some devastating oil spills, either aged equipment or otherwise, and this is one we want to address. It should, as I said, we try to come together. Peace is necessary for that. I have to say that the communities and representatives that we've been working with for the last year have been incredibly supportive, very patient. Today we go down to Port Harcourt in Ogoniland to do some groundbreaking tomorrow. And it's the community that's put their first foot forward. They're the ones who are providing and supporting and facilitating. So it's possible.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's a conversation. I think you have to do this together. And you have to see that the day after the cleanup, you give the alternatives not to get dirty again.
Sure. You've been on the ground many times, several times. So there, when you look at that environment, is it salvageable?
I mean, where we're looking at the moment, yes. But when I look at the wider Niger Delta, which is why HIPREP, the body set up for not just the cleanup, but the cleanup of the Niger Delta in the long term, I think it's going to be incredibly difficult, because what we've seen over the last couple of years is an increased amount of pollution that has come from illegal activities, third-party activities. And I'm not sure that, we've really assessed the damage to know how much, how long that's going to take to do, if at all. There are phenomenal spills and breakages, and it is tragic. It's a tragic thing that's happening in the Niger Delta.
Yeah, when you go down there and talk to the community, are they tired of all the incursions and the insurgency down there? Are they tired? Do they want to move on?
I think there are many that are tired. We have some representatives of our, illegal artisanal refiners who've come to say that, look, we've had enough now and we want to have an alternative. What does government have for us? I don't believe that, all this activity happens because people want that kind of a life. They don't have an alternative. Injustice over a long time that has not been addressed. So I think, you see the acting president go down there to really try to have a conversation and build back the trust that has been lost between the people and government over the years.
Yeah. Oil production has dropped tremendously. I mean, from 2.2 million now to only 1 million barrels a day last year. I mean, this is just, how do you...
Well, it's appalling, and I mean, we are trying to fix back an economy. Already there's a global downturn, and then we do this to ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that, if you're trying to get a message across, this is not the way to do it. Everyone is affected by this, north, south, east, and west of the country. Unfortunately, it is the Niger Delta that will suffer the most, continue to suffer the most, because that's where the pollution is, it's increased, that's where the conflict is protracted. So I think we have to find a way to turn that page, and it can be done together. It cannot be one where there are conditions before you come to the table. I think you need to come to the table, have that discourse, and I think we need to make a clear difference between what is an illegal activity and what is a justified grievance that needs to be addressed. And
Indeed.
I think that's what this administration is trying to do.
Madam Minister, when you see Shell pledging $1 billion over 5 years, is that a drop in the bucket, too little, too late, as some critics are saying?
Well, I don't think it is too late. It's never too late to improve the life of anybody from the Niger Delta, and we're starting with the 1 billion pledge by Shell a while ago in Ogoniland, and every one person there matters. So it's never too late. Is it enough? Unlikely. And so I think that, as we start now, because we should start, we will look at the UNEP report, which was done some while ago, and try to update that so that we really know what we have ahead of us. As I said, Ogoni is a small island in the midst of all of this pollution in the Niger Delta. There are 9 oil-producing states. And really, when we look at Delta, Rivers, and Bayelsa, this is where the core is. Not to forget the other states, but I think that we're absolutely challenged by what we've got ahead of us. I think there has to be better partnerships between the 3 tiers of government, because at the end of the day, the local governments and state governments are there day in, day out. We come additionally.
Are you hoping that other multinationals join hands and do what Shell has done?
Yes, I do. I mean, I think there are some that need to improve the behavior. I mean, clearly the oil companies did not come here and leave the environment as they met it. And I think they have to be responsible for that. Our regulatory agencies in government need to be strengthened and also have not done the job that they should have done. And that's what we're trying to do. It's very difficult to invest in regulatory agencies that you can't touch or feel what they do. It happens over time and down the road. But other multinationals have to do something about what is happening in the oil-producing areas.
Yeah, Madam Minister, I want to take a quick break, come back, talk about the North.
Yes.
The North, I tell you. And also, your new job.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Thank you.
We're speaking exclusively to Nigeria's Environment Minister, make that outgoing Environment Minister, Amina Mohammed. She's about to become Deputy United Nations Secretary General. Let's take a quick break. Back in a moment.
Thinking of banking in Africa? Then think Zenith, one of the biggest in Nigeria, with assets over $16 billion, listed among the 20 most influential brands in the world, and winner of Best Bank in Corporate Governance. The most customer-focused bank in Nigeria, a success built on 3 foundations, dedicated to people, technology, service. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
Welcome back to Arise News Now live in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. We're having a conversation with Nigeria's outgoing Environment Minister, Amina Mohammed. She's just about to become the Deputy UN Secretary General. If you want to tweet her, She's very active on social media, at Amina J. Mohammed. You can tweet me too if you want, at Queen Anger Jeff. Madam Minister, you're from the north.
Yes, I am from Gombe in the northeast.
There you go. Northern Nigeria faces so many challenges. Yeah. And now, especially with the insurgency with Boko Haram, food insecurity, environmental issues, that's got to be a very challenging area.
It is. It's extremely challenging. I was up in Maiduguri last week and went to Bama, so really getting the latest. It's not the first time. The latest, status of what's happening there. Amazing work being done by the state governor, trying to pull together many well-intentioned supporters in the multilateral system, the bilateral, the federal government and its programs. But very difficult. The nexus between poverty, climate change, and conflict is very real. Lake Chad has dried up, livelihoods have disappeared. So it is sort of the perfect storm. No one's born a terrorist, and so therefore you see what has happened. But I think this administration has rolled back, and what we have now is a possibility for rehabilitation and reintegration. It'll take a long time. I think we must learn the lessons of how that has not happened so well in Africa the day after conflict. The Northeast itself, as we said, it's been very difficult to get produce in terms of farming, but with the diversification of the economy, investments being put into infrastructure, our river basins being reactivated, and river basin in the Northeast is one that has been active in the past. These are all really helpful for us to try to bring back jobs and livelihoods and address food security and nutrition in particular for our children.
Absolutely. Speaking of children, Madam Minister, we were speaking to the UNICEF head the other day, and she said 58 million children face some kind of food insecurity. 58, that's nearly a third of the country's population.
It's a huge number of children. I've learned to take statistics these days with a pinch of salt. When we framed the SDGs, we called for a data revolution. There is enough technology and know-how for us to get baselines that we can all agree around. Now, clearly the statistics that UNICEF put forward have a basis, and there are millions of children that are risked. And I think that's how do we see the root cause of that? What do we need to do so that we prevent them from getting into a crisis stage, as we've seen in some of the IDP camps? We've lost many, many lives. But this is, a Nigeria issue. It's not just the Northeast. The Northeast is compounded by the conflict that it's had. But the Northwest is equally in a particularly bad state. And I also think when people are looking at Nigeria to see the numbers, is to see really what are we looking at? This is not a country that you divide half and half. You see over 73% of the land mass is the north, 19 states. Huge areas to cover and to deliver service in, and not enough resources to do that. So, a challenge, very big challenge.
Absolutely. You talked about SDGs a moment ago. We went from MDGs to SDGs. Are we on track, Madam Minister? Are we on track to achieve these?
Well, let's say that, this was a paradigm shift in the way we think about development. The MDGs were very clearly 8 goals that specifically looked at the social sector. They only looked at one pillar of development. And what the SDGs tried to do is to go beyond that and say we need to look at the whole so that we deal with root causes. We're not just putting a Band-Aid on development. So you see